Let's react to Nerdrotic's new video about Snow White. Oh boy, I can't wait.
I'm here on the Disney lot. We're gonna go and introduce this reading to a bunch of people. They don't know I'm here. Let's go. Thank you so much for being here. And to see this is really emotional for me, so I'm gonna try to not do that. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy Snow White.
I'm obsessed, oh my god.
So nice of you.
Yeah!
Magic mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all?
You're ugly, you're disgusting. You get help, you narcissistic bitch.
The lead actress in Disney's Snow White remake has been brought right back down to earth after making some very tone-deaf comments that haven't translated well amid the horror opening weekend of the movie.
Oh my god. I'm never gonna financially recover from this.
Nerderotic.com.
Sorry, haters.
Oh, I love that last part. I was laughing when he sat there and was like, oh, I'm never going to recover from this. Oh, Disney, you are in some serious trouble. We all know with all the flops that you have produced so far this year. I think I saw a video where someone said $500 million. Honestly, I don't think anything can get them out of the hole that they put themselves into.
Disney's Snow White movie is apparently good. Rachel Zegler is a shining supernova in Snow White. I may regret saying this, but Snow White is solid. And that regret came instantly, Paul Klein from Filmhound magazine, but don't feel bad because you're not alone. Considering the fact that it came along with all the other early reactions of Snow White, followed closely by that unfortunate Daily Beast article, which all aged like sour milk in the Mojave Desert. But I would like to thank you all for providing us with a lot of unintentional laughs, because Snow White is a historic flop, and that's a good thing. But before we get to that, I'd like to welcome the over 1 million Hellions out there, lovers of all things good, dislikers of all things bad, and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. Some may consider it in poor taste to dance on the grave of Snow White after its failure, keeping in mind that a lot of innocent people who had nothing to do with the culture war worked really hard on this. I am truly sorry you had to work on this. I hope you got paid really well, but we're gonna do it anyway.
It's Hollywood, baby.
There is a powerful lesson to be learned here, particularly with the decision makers in Hollywood, but since they've ignored the predictable failures of the very recent past, it's probably a waste of time, but let's give it a try. So let's roll this one out again, because as sure as the sun is gonna rise in the east and set in the west, as sure as your dog is gonna piss on your new rug, as sure as someone in Hollywood is gonna...
You know, I would be with you, Nerdrotic, where it is a good thing that is flopping. But the thing is, though, because usually when something doesn't work, usually people will adapt or change what they're doing. But have you noticed Disney has not done that? They have been staying the same course with the horrible writing. So it's either Disney has a hidden agenda, or they're just hiring people that are not qualified to do the job. I'm starting to think they're just not qualified to do the job, but you know what? It is a very big possibility that Disney is trying to sit there and push an agenda. But the thing is, they're going to continue pushing it, because the problem is if you look at their theme parks, they profit billions of dollars every year. They had record profits last year, and well, probably because they're comparing from the time with COVID, so of course they would have record profits. But yeah, but besides the point, they profit billions of dollars. So far this year, they've lost like $500 million when they're profiting billions of dollars already, and that's just from their amusement parks alone, not including everything else that they have. I think they can lose like $500 million, no problem. They're not going to worry about it if they're really trying to push that agenda, because if they don't start changing it, then that's going to show you they don't care.
A bitch about Trump today, as sure as the Marvels was gonna flop, as sure as the Acolyte was gonna fail and then eventually get canceled, as sure as the Rings of Power Season 2 was going to underperform following its previous underperformance, leading to its boss getting fired. Everyone knew the 2-year slow-motion train wreck that was Snow White was gonna be a complete disaster, and the only question left was how much. And to the surprise of absolutely no one, including Disney, it descended past the lowest of expectations. Snow White is no mere box office flop. It is again a historic, cataclysmic, catastrophic, embarrassing failure for Disney and Hollywood. And you just hate to see it. But the good news doesn't end there, considering what movie put Snow White in second place in its second week. From The Hollywood Reporter, box office upset, blue-collar drama A Working Man beat Snow White with $15 million opening. The dismal performance of Snow White in its second week, and is more bad news for Disney and Hollywood, and it puts the live-action pick in official bomb territory after falling off a steep 66%. And I'm sure you will notice, dear viewer, how The Hollywood Reporter
It is pretty funny that Working Man did far better than Snow White. Now, I did go and sit there and see that movie, and you know, it wasn't a bad movie, but all it was a copycat of Taken. That's it. Taken is still a far better movie than Working Man. But you know what? Working Man was still a good movie to watch, but not as good as Taken.
subtly or not so subtly, tries to make this something political. Middle America is taking charge of the box office because everyone in the big cities is going to see Snow White, where David Ayer's blue-collar drama A Working Man beats Snow White in a surprise upset with a better-than-expected domestic opening of $15.2 million from 3,262 theaters. That, I might add, is 1,000 fewer theaters than Snow White. And in second place, Snow White, which took in $14.2 million from 4,200 locations, a steep decline of 66% as the live-action update continues to be dogged by poor word-of-mouth, well-deserved, and controversial headlines over its titular star Rachel Zegler. The film's domestic tally throughout Sunday is a muted $66.8 million domestically and $143.1 million globally. And now here comes admittedly a very weak attempt at some access media cope. However, Disney isn't waving the white flag of defeat, although they should, and says its movie could still avoid biting the poison apple because of rolling spring breaks over the next few weeks and little competition in terms of films targeting girls and females. Next week's A Minecraft movie is expected to skew male. Well, I don't know about all of that, but what I do know is while little girls aren't going to see A Working Man, their moms are. And now for a heavy dose.
Okay, you know what? I will firmly admit that there were a lot of people that refused to go watch the movie because Rachel Zegler wasn't a white woman. If I was to sit there and say that that wasn't true, that would just be a lie. And it's either you're lying or you're just living in delusion. But that wasn't the only reason. They knew that they sat there and took the story of Snow White, a very beloved story that saved Disney back in the day. And what's funny is, well, it's not going to ruin Disney because they still got their theme parks, but they sat there and ruined the thing that saved them. So this one story, they had to twist it and turn it into something that it wasn't. That's what ultimately made more people angry than before. Because you look at The Little Mermaid, they sat there and race swapped with The Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid still did a lot better than this movie did. Now, I never watched The Little Mermaid because I never was into the original Little Mermaid, so I wasn't going to run out and go watch the live action one. Just like I did not care one little bit to go watch Snow White. Even if they would have sat there and kept it true to the story, still wouldn't have wanted to go and see it. Okay, not a huge fan of Snow White, never have been. But even if you would have sat there and took a, black-haired white woman, put her in that movie, the movie would have still flopped. Now, it might have done a little bit better than what it did, but it still would have been a flop
of reality. But the film's dismal performance in its second weekend is more bad news for Disney and Hollywood and theaters and puts Snow White in official bomb territory, considering its cost of roughly $370 million to market and produce. And why did we suddenly get an honest number from Disney with that $370 million budget for Snow White, including marketing, right after that bullshit $180 million budget number for Captain African American? Because the latter was shot in Georgia and Snow White was shot in
London, England.
For tax credits, which means the budget for Snow White will eventually be disclosed. And Disney doesn't want their lies exposed like they were with Doctor Strange Mom and the Marvels. Speaking of the Marvels, Snow White is firmly in that film's territory. While it eked past the Marvels' domestic total after its second week, but it's still well behind its worldwide total. And Snow White's budget is almost exactly the same budget as the Marvels. So even if it surpasses it and makes $300 to $400 million worldwide, it's still hundreds of millions of dollars off of its break-even point. What's the definition of a box office bomb or flop? A film that fails to make a profit during its theatrical run, meaning it doesn't cover its production, marketing, or distribution costs. It's fitting.
All right, so I'm going to choose to believe pretty much everybody that sits there and talks about this movie. Most people are sitting there saying that Snow White is a far superior movie than the Marvels. So the only reason why that the Marvels is beating them on the globally is because they put a non-white woman as the lead. If they would have put a white woman as the lead, I think it would have been slightly more than what the Marvels would have done. It still would have been a bomb. They wouldn't have came close to recouping their money back on what it cost, but it still would have been a little bit better.
That a movie about a working man that Hollywood calls a blue-collar movie, which is just a normal action movie not filled with a bunch of messaging, beats the hell out of yet another girl boss movie with communist propaganda. Nature is healing. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that A Working Man is based on the Levon K books by everyone's pal and comic book legend, Chuck Dixon. Hail Chuck! Things have gotten so bad that this is a flop that the access media can't deny. But they are trying to deny that Snow White failed because it was woke. Disney's Snow White flop is deeper than anti-woke backlash box office analysts say. Box office analysts, the same ones who thought this film would perform better, don't think the go woke, go broke narrative that has weighed on Disney explains why Snow White hasn't been a hit. So let's hear what one of these highly paid but often wrong box office analysts has to say. I don't think everyone just said, it's woke, let's not go. Well, to be fair, I think a lot of people did. David A. Gross, who runs the movie consultancy franchise told Business Insider, I just think it's a little bit confusing. It's cross signals. I think a lot of it goes back to the film. The reviews are not good. Well, neither is the film, and it's woke. And yes, Snow White's massive failure is a good thing for Western culture, all of humanity, and yes, content creators. But it isn't for, obviously, Disney.
All right, so before I say this, listen, I don't have a problem with stuff that is considered woke like Novocaine. I loved the movie Novocaine. You know how many people are sitting there saying that it's woke, oh, it's a hidden agenda to make men look weak? For one, we're talking about Randy Quaid's son. That boy has never sat there and been considered a tough guy or a man in any situation. So it fit his role. Yeah, he's being typecasted, but he does great in those movies. The movie was funny, and I loved every minute of it. So if that is a woke movie, then I enjoy it. So as long as it fits and it's good writing, I don't care. I don't mind some wokeness in movies as long as it's good. Okay? I believe that there is a way to do wokeness to where it could be funny. The problem is most people do not want woke. Now, when you sit there and look where they had the woke, where they're bashing people, where it becomes toxic. Okay, we'll sit there and say that one. Or I'll sit there and say that one. When it comes to being toxic, if it is toxic woke, then no. I have no want to watch it, no care to. This type of movie is toxic woke. All right? And people are so sick and tired of everything being woke. In the last, 5+ years, we have been dealing with movies after movies, and now it's coming into the video games of where the woke is coming in. People are tired of it. So if something even appears to slightly be woke, it's not going to do well. And Disney knows this.
Hollywood and the theaters, who've had, thanks to Hollywood, an abysmal first quarter, including only 2 weekends so far, collectively crossing 100 million domestically. Again, that's all the movies that were released in the US combined over a weekend. We've had multiple under 80 million and 3 in a row under 55 million. And now the theaters are scrambling. A lot of them are going to try the Alamo Drafthouse model and have a bar. Some are thinking about pickleball. Some are thinking about weed. I don't know, maybe the industry that relies on them, Hollywood, should make better movies and stop rolling out Snow Whites. Yes, there's probably going to be a couple of big hits this year. Maybe Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon, and Avatar is going to make the equivalent of the national debt and be forgotten by the time you go to the bathroom because it's like staring at an aquarium for 3 hours. Again, it's going to make a lot of money. Too bad it comes out on December 19th, so the theaters are screwed this year. There are a couple of other good things that can come out of this Snow White failure. We can finally put an end to early social media reactions from hand-picked people by the studios. It's almost like they're actors reading lines written for them. And can we stop calling it a 3-day opening weekend? The Thursday preview shows start at 2 p.m. It's a 4-day opening weekend, which reminds me of the Madam Web opening, which was technically a 6-day opening weekend. Again, Snow White is more than just a mere box office bomb that was a bad movie. It's the culmination of events.
Hey, I am extremely excited for that new Avatar movie. Nerdrotic, please put some respect on their name. You will give Avatar the respect it deserves.
2-year-long public relations car accident that you can't take your eyes off of that hit the cultural zeitgeist. A film that almost no one saw except for YouTubers that everyone talked about.
She attacked Twitter and Elon and finished with Donald Trump.
Oh, man.
Hello, Disney. You're going to have to redo your film again.
The lead actress in Disney's Snow White remake has been brought right back down to earth after making some very tone-deaf comments that haven't translated well amid the horror opening weekend of the movie.
Many photos like this across social media, completely empty theaters, many videos that have been shown online of completely empty cinemas.
Snow White bombs, breaks records for the lowest live-action remake opening ever.
Where did it all go so catastrophically wrong? Was it Rachel Ziegler, appointing one of the wokest actresses in history? Was that the catalyst for all this?
Yes! Yes!
Ultimately, it turns out it wasn't a very good idea to hire Rachel Ziegler as Snow White.
Evidently so.
And it was ill-advised to actually let her speak.
Weird.
But that's when things got really bad because they continued to let her speak. I wouldn't have spent $307.
All right, let's not pretend that the reason why this movie did bad was because she badmouthed Donald Trump. Come on, Hollywood has been badmouthing Donald Trump for over a decade now, and that's not going to change anytime soon. They're going to continue to badmouth him long after his presidency run ends. Okay, so let's just be honest. That has nothing to do with it. The only reason why, because it's no secret, she has been fired. And it has nothing to do with her being outspoken. Okay, Disney had to sit there and create a fall person, and they used Rachel Ziegler as the fall person. Which, like I said, it is Rachel Zegler is not the reason why this movie bombed. This movie, now, if they would have put a white woman with black hair, wouldn't even have to have black hair, you can dye the hair for crying out loud. But if it would have been a white woman as the thing, it would have made a slightly little bit more money. Okay, so it would have done a little bit better, but it would have still bombed. Because the biggest problem with this movie has nothing to do with Rachel Zegler, it has to do with the writing, with what Disney did. That is the biggest problem. And people just need to understand that. Until they sit there and change the writing, we're going to continue to get crappy movies just like this. Hopefully, they do not ruin Avatar. If they ruin Avatar, I don't know. I will boycott movies altogether. Not really, but I will be very upset if they ruin Avatar. Well, that's it for my reaction. Let me know down in the comments if you agree with me or not. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay vigilant.